I can tell by the smiles when I walked in that it's not me you want to see. So I'll be very quick and just say that you all know who I'm about to introduce. So please give a warm welcome for the man himself, Mark Hamill.
Hello. Hello. All of you. Thank you. Here. Wow. All right. That was an applause meter, for those of you that were wondering.
I must say, that was probably the loudest I've ever heard it. So welcome to the Cambridge Union.
Thank you so much.
And there's a lot, I'm sure, that everyone here wants to ask, and I have some few questions of my
Hopefully
own.
no math questions.
So I just thought I'd just start almost at the beginning of our story with you.
Right.
If you take us back to 1997 and around that time when sort of A New Hope came out, how did you manage to land the role of Luke Skywalker? How did that all come about for you?
Well, did you catch that little mistake? Because that was 20 years after New Hope came out, 1997.
Oh, 1977. Okay, this has not started well for me already. Hopefully that'll be the
Well,
only
you know,
mistake.
to chronologically just do a really fast overview of where I got to the point that you're talking about. I was the middle of 7 children. I was born in Oakland, which is outside of San Francisco. We're lower middle class. My father was an authoritarian career naval officer, strong Republican. And we moved from coast to coast to coast to coast because the Navy is always on the coastline. And so, yeah, not too smart to have the Navy in Kansas. But I went to 9 schools in 12 years. So it's kind of a schizophrenic existence. You know, once you figure out what works in one location, I don't know how it is here in England, but the East Coast is so different from the West Coast, and you know, people notice your accent is different or whatever. So you're sort of always the new kid. And being in the middle of this large family, I was sort of the court jester. I'd make my brothers and sisters laugh. It was Bill, Terry, Jan, me, Jeannie, Kim, and Patrick. Boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, girl, boy. And I always loved comic strips. When I discovered them in the newspapers being delivered to the door every day, I thought, oh my gosh, there were even comic strips. I think they really helped me learn to read or want to read. And so I was predisposed. I loved film. I loved Laurel and Hardy and television sitcoms like the Honeymooners and so forth. And I always was sort of the one doing puppet shows and magic. Terrible, terrible magic, And of course you have brothers and sisters that heckle you, and he's got a rubber band up his sleeve. That's how he does it. But I knew early on I liked performing. I liked to make people laugh. And I started doing shows in school. And as I went along, I really decided early on that I'm going to be... I remember seeing King Kong on television. I'm not talking about the Peter Jackson King Kong. This is the black and white one, the original one. In 1933 it was made. And I was just mesmerized. I had no idea how they made these dinosaurs come to life. And of course, I was just crazy for dinosaurs. I loved them. And I eventually started seeking out film magazines and finding out what stop frame animation was. And here's a pivotal moment for me. I was watching the Walt Disney program, and they showed how they made animated cartoons. And I saw Clarence Nash doing the voice of Donald Duck. And I thought, oh my gosh, there are grown-ups whose job it is to go to work and make Donald Duck cartoons. And I thought, again, I kept it in the thought bubble because I knew I would be ridiculed, my brothers and sisters, Mr. Hollywood or whatever they would do. So I kept it sort of very on the down low. But I, like I say, I wanted to get into the business. I didn't know how to get into the business. I didn't know anyone in show business. But anyway, the final place I got transferred in for my junior and senior year in high school, the last 2 years of high school, we got transferred to Yokosuka, Japan. So I went to Yokohama High School. It was English speaking, but after graduation, I thought, well, I guess you go to New York, Because I read biographies of the Marx Brothers. I loved magic, so I read about Houdini and Thurston and so forth. I was a voracious reader, and you could go into the school library and look up microfiche, which is like old school, microfilm of photographs of newspapers. So I was looking up like reviews of the Marx Brothers on Broadway. It was like a time machine into the past. I was fascinated with all of that showbiz minutia. And so the only way I could figure it out was I said, well, you go to New York. That's what you do. You drive a cab, you wait tables, but you go to New York and try and get your break and do auditions and whatever. And that was my plan. So we came back. My brother was getting married in Los Angeles. Dr. Hamill, the success of the family. Because science trumps the arts. We all know that. But anyway, he was getting married, and one of his friends, his best man, in fact, was Michael Franks, who's a composer, writer, and he had written this original show, which I wound up auditioning for and getting in, this would have been the summer of 1969 when I graduated. And so it kept me in Los Angeles because the show ran throughout the summer, and I didn't have any money. I didn't have the grades to get into, I couldn't get a scholarship or whatever. But it was the era of Vietnam, so you had to get into school or you get drafted, and I knew I'd make a terrible soldier. So, and of course, we had no idea why we were there, why we were fighting. I thought, well, one good thing about this war is we'll never make that mistake again. We'll never go into other cultures and force our way of our ideology on people we don't understand. But in any case, but I digress. I didn't go to New York, and I did this show. And what happened was I was a native Californian, so I went to Los Angeles City College, which by law, they must accept you if you're a native of California. I'm sure you guys had to do all kinds of things and make such good grades and pass enormous intellectual challenges. LACC, $8 and a pen, and you're in. They must accept you even if you're a convicted felon, as long as you're a resident of California. And I'm not disparaging convicted felons, by the way. People that try and make something of their life and get educated, I'm very impressed with. But nonetheless, I went to the drama school there for 4 semesters. And what happened was somebody had seen me in that show that first summer I got there and knew people in show business and said, do you want to audition and try and get an agent? And I said, yeah, okay, but I can't drop below a certain number of units or, I'll be dropped from class and, again, be in the Army. So that's what happened. I went around and I auditioned. I had 2 scenes. I did a dramatic reading with a partner. She read from the book. The subject was Roses by Frank Gilroy, which I had seen with Martin Sheen. And Jack Albertson did it on stage, and then he won an Oscar in the movie version. And that was the first play I'd ever seen. That was, again, another revelation. I'd seen movies and so forth, but this was new, a theater where they were clearly there. And again, in my mind, I said, see, people go to work and this is their job. So I really, that was so strong in my mind. I thought, but towards the last years of junior high and high school, I looked at classes like, just trivialities that got in the way of my rehearsal, which was terrible. I mean, I should have applied myself. I skirted around the honor roll, but my science was a big downfall for me. And again, as I pointed out earlier, math was not great. But I got an agent, you see, and within the first, I see a show closed in August, and by Christmas time, I'd had an agent. I did it for one person, then he brought me around, and I did the same. Oh, and I did the second thing was a comedy reading. I played Snoopy from Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was the Red Baron. I just sat down on the office floor and just did the Red Baron monologue. I look back and I think, what were you thinking? It just seems so crazy. And I wouldn't tell people, I wouldn't advise other people to do this exactly. When I go and speak at drama schools, I try and talk people out of show business. And for one reason, and that is, if there's anything else you like, equally as well or better, do that. Do that. Don't get into show business. And I mean, aside from being selfishly sure that they're going to steal my jobs, you're in for a lifetime of rejection and unemployment. It's really, really, really a tough life. And my parents were always saying that to me. You got to get a degree so you can have something to fall back on. You have to have something to fall back on. And I thought, well, if I had to choose, I probably would be a teacher because I like people. I thought that might be a way to go. But there's also something really sort of exciting about working without a net, It's more dangerous, and there's higher risk involved. But what happened was my agent started getting upset with me because I go out on these auditions, and a couple of times I booked the job, but I couldn't do it and still keep up with my classes, see. So I got work that first summer afterwards in 1970. The summer of 1970, I did 3 or 4 shows. One of my first shows was The Bill Cosby Show. Have you heard of him? Don't know quite how to take that. But he was very nice and offered me no drinks whatsoever. And I went back and I did my 3rd semester, 4th semester, and then the summer of 71, again, I got work. And by this time, the draft was ending. There was this ghastly lottery drawing where they pulled your number. There were 365 balls in the hopper, and based on your birthday, you had a ranking, and there was you're going to get drafted. Here's a safe area, and then above this number, you're really in the clear. And I was fairly in the clear, so there was no impediment to me leaving school behind. And I look back and I regret that in a way because you never get to do exactly the same kind of work that when you did in an academic setting. When you go into it commercially, it's different than, you can get cast and things or take on scenes where you'd never get that part ever in a million years. And it's very adventurous and it's very challenging. And actually, the head of the department said, well, I played a part in something called The Warrior's Husband, where all the gender roles were reversed. And the women were all the Amazonian conquerors, and the men were the women were dominant, and what's the opposite of dominant,
Subservient.
There you go. Subservient. Thank you so much. Yeah. I did bring my pocket dictionary because I was ready for you lot, but the print's so small I'd have to squint. Oh, it'd be embarrassing. And anyway, it kind of scared me because I thought, well, wait a second, this guy's not gay, right? I mean, he's married to this big... No. And I found a way. The way to play it was, I thought, like a spoiled brat. It wasn't about a matter of being effeminate. It was about being royalty and entitled. And it was very funny, but what happened was it gave the head of the department the idea that we should do a Shakespearean play the way they originally done, and he told me, I want you to be my leading lady, which was hard for me to accept at that time because I would have been, 19 or something, and it was just so confusing. But if I were to go back and do it, they said, it'll be like 6 units. It'll be like half your whole, because it's a competition. All those schools enter their best shows, and I don't know why I'm telling you this because I wasn't able to do it. I got booked in so many things. I finished after 2 years. So that brings us to summer of 71. Then I just do, up until Star Wars, I'm just doing TV guest appearances. I had a 9-month run on General Hospital, which is like Coronation Street, or one of those serial plays, and everything is so wrought with drama. I've told you once, and I'll tell you again. Where's Peggy? Who's Peggy? And I was already 18, but I was playing like 14. And they dressed me up in these ridiculous, outfits that made me look very young, the Dennis the Menace shoes and the T-shirts. And in those days, you couldn't have an adult relationship unless you were, now they do any kind of plot in the world. But in those days, this would have been 1971. And But I loved it. I hated the material because I said, I'm not going to be on a soap opera. I hate soap operas. They said, no, but you should do it for the experience. You know, you learn the lights and how to hit your mark without looking down. And again, I tell young actors, you know, don't scoff at the material. They're going to pay you to do it. Do it. You know, you can't be too choosy when you're being paid to do something that you should love. And it was a good lesson for me because all the actors on the show would send up the material in dress. You know, on air, they did it straight. But I realized everybody thinks this is nonsense. But, so I did that, and I did, I don't know, about 5 or 6 TV movies and so forth. I went out for American Graffiti and didn't make it past Fred Roos, who was George Lucas's casting director. But he might have made a note, I don't know. I do a TV series called The Texas Wheelers that Mary Tyler Moore produced. 13 episodes, rave reviews. I mean, with the most critically acclaimed thing I had done up until that time. And of course, it was canceled after 4 episodes. 9 never aired. And so again, that was kind of a shock because I said, oh, I really want this to go because I'm playing a really good, dumb character. He's one of the strongest comedic elements on the show, because he's really dumb, but he doesn't think he's dumb. He thinks he's smart. And my older brother was played by an actor, I don't know whatever became of him, Gary Busey. And yeah, he was Gary Busey then too. And God love him. But you know, again, I'd never seen anybody like him. I said, this guy's so authentic, you know? I mean, he's not like acting. He really is an Okie from Oklahoma. Should be translations. Don't see it on the screen. So I was really upset about that, but a friend of mine, a lot of people started saying, have you been out for George Lucas's new thing? I said, no, what is it? They said, something like Flash Gordon, which was an old 1930s serial, very much like Dan Dare, or I guess, you know, you might relate it to Doctor Who, or because I'm trying to figure out what else that would you'd recognize. But I did recognize George Lucas. First of all, I loved American Graffiti. It was one of my favorite comedies. Plus, you know, I loved science fiction and fantasy. And many, many people told me about this, including Robert Englund, who's a friend of mine. He later played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And over the years, the story has developed to the point where he got me the part. You know, he wrote in his book and so forth. I mean, I love Bob, but basically every actor in the world will tell you about the jobs available once they're sure they've been rejected. Once they don't get the part, then they'll tell you because, you know, there's no risk there. So I went out and I met, it was George having interviews with Brian De Palma, who was casting Carrie, the horror film based on the Stephen King novel. And George never spoke the entire time. Brian did the talking. It was basically, and I didn't read or anything. We didn't get any material. He just said, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And, you know, I basically went through that spiel you heard 40 minutes ago, middle of 7 children, and blah, blah, blah. And when I left, they said, what was George Lucas like? I said, was George Lucas in there? I saw Brian was there with his assistant. Oh, you mean the guy that didn't speak? That was George? Yeah, that was George. Okay. And I didn't think very much about it. Again, I hadn't read a script. You know, they didn't tell me, oh, we're doing X, Y, and Z. They didn't say, I'm doing this Stephen King adaptation. He didn't say, I'm doing this homage to the Flash Gordon serials. So that was what you call a cattle call, because there's just, you go and there's probably more people than are in this room right now with numbers, you know, waiting to 44, you know, and you go in. And you could see people, when I went there, you could see people divided into Han Solos and Lukes. I'm saying in retrospect now, because there were all the teenage guys around, you know, 16 to say 21, and all the 35 to 40-year-olds playing the Han Solo. And I didn't think anything about it. And they said, and then my agent said, oh, you're going to get a scene in the mail. And sure enough, it arrives in the mailbox. It's like 7 pages. And it's from Star Wars. And I'm reading this thing, and I'm thinking, see, out of context, I couldn't make out what the heck they wanted. I mean, is this like a send-up? Is it like satire? Is it like Mel Brooks or something? you know, because I'm saying, well, you know, what's a Wookiee? Because there were a lot of terms in there I didn't really understand, and I mean, I thought, this seems funny to me. I mean, on some level, it's hilarious, but not overtly so. You know, it was, you know, but the slyness was there. You know, the banter. It was a scene in the Millennium. I'm assuming everybody knows this material. No spoilers. But it was set in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, right? And, you know, it largely exists now in the film, but that's no moon, that's a space station. That scene. But in the version I was reading, it was just Han Solo and Luke Starkiller, which was what his name was until they changed it very late. Do you know I actually filmed the scene, I'm Luke Starkiller, I'm here to rescue you? And I got a call sheet, and they said they were going to shoot that scene. I said, we shot that scene last week. They said, no, we're going to reshoot it. I said, why? They said, they've changed your name. I said, really? What's wrong with Luke Starkiller? It gives him a little moxie. You know? You know, he could use all the moxie he could get. And, you know, kind of a vapid farm boy. Let's give him a little guts here. And they said, no. They don't like the word kill in your name. It's just, it tests negatively. I said, oh, those focus groups. I hate focus groups. You know, they wanted to change the name of Star Wars because 40% of women between the ages of 18 and 35 thought it had to do with the marriage of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Really? Oh, God. And there was a contest on set. If you could think of a better name than Star Wars, you would win a prize. And everybody could sign up on the bulletin board. No one came up with a better title. But again, I read, sorry?
Did you not have a suggestion, a different name for Star Wars?
I can't remember. I liked Star Wars. I thought it was really stark, you know, bing, bing, you know, it's not even the Star Wars. But I'll have to tell you, though, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself because I read this 8-page scene. And I went in, and I was going to be put on videotape. George was there. Gary Kurtz, the producer, was there. It turned out Ben Bird, I didn't know this till years later, reading books about it. I go, oh, was that Ben? He later won an Oscar for his you know, brilliant sound effects and sound editing. He was operating the camera, and I go in, and I immediately recognize Harrison from American Graffiti. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a big part, but he's really effective. Hey, Fafa, where'd you get the piece of shit? You know, I loved him from the get-go. This guy, you know, I just thought, he's so cool. And so funny. No, he played Bob Falfa. I forget who the character he addressed was, but I just got that wrong. But my point is, I recognized him. And I said, oh, good. Harrison, you got to let me know. Is this like comedy? Are we doing this straightforward? And, you know, should we send it up or what? He said, you know, just... just do the lines so we can all get out of here. See, and I'm all like, you know, bouncing around the wall, so we were already pretty much in character. You know, I had that gee whiz bang kind of energy, and he was all like so laid back. It was like, you want to leave a wake up call? But he said, you know, no, yeah. And I asked George the same thing. I said, is this sort of like, you know, are we? And he said, you know, let's just do it once, and we'll talk about it later. Which I learned with years of experience. When he says, let's just do it now, we'll talk about it later, you do it now, and you never talk about it later. Never, never, never. It's a good trick that directors have used over the years, because they say, well, that's an interesting question. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Tell you what, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. And you go, thank you. And then you never get back to them. Because that's all you do as a director. People just ask you questions all day long about everything. So I had no choice. I thought, well, look, I can't choose to send this thing up. I'm going to do it as sincerely as I can. And that probably was the right choice, because, you know, next thing I know, I had the role. And by the way, about last year I was here doing this video game, and the family was out for the afternoon, and I was on the internet, and somehow I came to, it said, click here to see Mark Hamill's audition for Star Wars. I thought, ooh, do I have the nerve? And I thought, well, nobody's around, so I clicked on it, and like I say, I thought the other guys were just as good. It was William Catt and Robbie Benson and Kurt Russell, and each one of them was perfectly fine, Luke. I mean, really, any one of them could have played this part. And Marcia told me later, though, we got into groups where they didn't mix and match. There was a set of 3 and a set of 3, and it was this one, and this one, and Harry, Carrison, and you. But we didn't mix, we didn't. It was down to those 2 groups of 3, and it went our way. But like I say, I mean, there was a line in the. I've told this story before, but if you haven't heard it, you'll understand what I was dealing with, trying to make sense of the scene. And just to think, I don't know how long ago this was, 38 years ago, or something. In the screenplay, there was a line that never wound up in the movie, and yet I've never forgotten that specific line. Because it was basically coming up to a place and me admitting to Solo that, what about my payment, kid? I went, hey, I meant to talk to you about that. I don't have the money right now. I'm beginning to not like you. I thought he had all the jokes, but at one point, he says, well, I'm going to drop you off. I've done my part, my part of the bargain's done. And my line was, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquila or Sullust, and what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. Huh? I said, who talks like this? I mean, you can diagram the sentence. I mean, I could understand it intellectually. Fear is their greatest defense. Okay, yeah, I understand that. I doubt it, and they're talking about the Death Star, that we would be intimidated by them. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquila or Sullust, which is just 2 made-up names of asteroids or planets, just 2 bogus names, like Wookiee. There's lots and lots of made-up names. And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. They won't expect, the Millennium Falcon slipping through. They'll expect a big armada. So intellectually, I could understand it. But I said, now how do you say this conversationally and have it just roll off your tongue? So that's probably why I've remembered it all these years. I was walking around my house. I can't turn back. There's fears. I mean, I was just doing it all day on the way to the supermarket, And I forgot. Okay, so we did the scene. I couldn't get anything out of George, in terms of, do it this way or that way. He was famous for saying faster with more intensity. And I don't know if he said that to me that day, but I was certainly heard it many, many times over the years. And faster and more intensity. And when I talked to Cindy Williams and people who were in American Graffiti, they said, oh, yeah, that's all he ever said to us, too. So we had T-shirts made up that said faster, more intensity. On the back. And so anyway, I went on, and then you go on with your life. You go out, there's so many things that you go out for. So I didn't wait around on the phone and go, oh, I hope I got this. And then my agent called and said, you got the Lucasfilm. I said, you're kidding. He said, yeah. What part was it again? It's Luke Starkiller. And I said, okay. And I said, who else is in it? And she said, well, I know Harrison Ford. I said, oh, yeah, I play his sidekick. Because clearly he was a leading man, and I was like this annoying, he was coolly flying the ship, and I was annoying him. And in 7 pages, I thought, well, when he drops me off, that's the last time you'll see me in the movie. I won't, But anyway, the script arrives. The only reason I do this whole build-up is because you get this part. It's your first film. You're going to go to London for the first time, which you've always dreamed about since you heard the Beatles. You're going to go to North Africa, and you're going to work with Sir Alec Guinness. Oh, my God, because my mom was a big Alec Guinness fan, and living on a military base, they had first-run films that were many, many years old. So, instead of, we saw on the big screen, even though, they were 10 years old at the time, The Lady Killers, The Lavender Hill Mob, The Horse's Mouth. She was mad for Alec Guinness. And I was too, you know, I just thought he was the greatest thing in the world. So I get this script, and I open the page, and it says, The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Wills, Saga #1, The Star Wars. And I went, wait a second, I don't think Harrison was playing Luke Starkiller. I think that was me. I'm not sure, I'll read it anyway. So I start reading this thing, and I'm telling you guys, you know, it didn't have the John Williams music yet, it didn't have that fantastic editing or the art direction or the performances, but so much of that magic was on that page. The roll up, and, you know, I'm reading this thing, and Darth Vader comes on, and oh my God, you know, being a big comic book fan and fantasy film fan, I just could not believe my eyes.
And reading the script, at that point, did you have any idea about sort of how much of a success it would be?
Oh, gosh. Look, I thought this thing's the biggest gamble in the world. It's funny, which is unlike most science fiction. You know, usually science fiction is very serious, you know, 2001 or even Star Trek. And I said, well, Star Trek is really real science fiction because it's from a perspective of Earthlings. This is a galaxy far, far away. You know, it's fantasy. If we had been traveling in horse-drawn carriages rather than, you know, on spaceships, there was a wizard, there was a pirate, there was a farm boy. I mean, it was once upon a time, this kind of stuff. But no, I had no idea. I thought, if nothing else, if this tanks at the box office, I'll bet you anything, they'll love it at midnight showings. Pot-smoking college kids are going to be watching this. It'll be Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then us. Because I went to a lot of revival houses. I saw lots of movies that were huge flops that I loved. And you know, you look in history books and you go, I can't believe that wasn't a big success because it's such a great movie. So, and that didn't occur to me. I just thought, I loved this thing. I didn't care whether anybody else did. But I have to tell you, I thought it would, you know, I had a friend that was working, Jonathan Benaire was my best friend, and he worked at the LA Art Museum in the cinema department. And I said, Jonathan, and I let him read the script. In those days, you could, you know, there's not all these NDAs where you have to, you know, sign your life away to, and it's printed on blue pages, and you can't read it, and, you know, it's X-rayed, and, you know, tattooed, and drones follow you around while you read it, you know. It's crazy. It's pathological security beyond all reason. But in any case, I said, Jonathan, look up the grosses of fantasy films from, say, for a starting point, King Kong in 1933, and let's, you know, on a readout, you know, and he'd get bored at work, and he'd do stuff like that for me. And he read it too, and he says, so what do you think? I said, you know what? Because the part of it was, they said, if this is a success, then you're signed for part 2 and part 3, or 2 more. And I said, you know something? I think this is going to be as big as Planet of the Apes. And I meant the Charlton Heston 1968 Planet of the Apes, not the Tim Burton. I said, I bet it is. I'll bet it is, because I said, women don't really like science fiction as much as guys. But this one, first of all, not only does it have a really strong woman character, she's like smarter than I am, you know. She's like, you call this a plan? And it had that banter. It had that American Graffiti kind of humor, you know. And I thought that'll give it a real added dimension. And of course, I don't know how they're going to do all this stuff. A floating car and a laser sword and all this stuff. And then as I started going in for costume fittings and so forth, I'm seeing the conceptual art on the wall, and oh my gosh, Ralph McQuarrie, if you haven't seen this guy's work, and he did the original concept art that George used to help sell the movie in the first place. And typical Hollywood, they showed it to Universal. They made a fortune on American Graffiti. They said, nah, we don't want that. You know, it's always puzzling to me. How about Spielberg making Jaws? Universal passes on Close Encounters. You thought, you know, just based on what you made on the last time, why don't you take the leap of faith and let them do whatever the follow-up is? So Jaws gets turned down by Universal, he makes Close Encounters. American Graffiti gets turned down by Universal, and Fox picks up Star Wars. So, but you know, it was one of those things, and you know, it was one of those things as it was happening to me, I was having so much fun, and it was so mirrored probably Luke's journey, that he goes from obscurity to these exotic locations. And there were so many times I would say, it's like, pinch me, I can't believe I'm here. I mean, you'd be in the cockpit and you think, wow, you keep it in the thought bubble. Right there is one of the most acclaimed actors of the 20th century. Multiple Oscar nominee, won an Oscar. And to my right, a guy who's over 7 feet tall, dressed in a monkey costume, who's flying the spaceship. Hello! And I'd had to do everything I could not to just burst out laughing. And I didn't really, and years later, they showed me all these documentaries. There's DVD extras. I haven't seen the movie since they were in the movie theaters. So a lot of these, what I call UPFs, there's people that, first of all, there's people that just don't care for it. It's just not their thing. Fine. Then there's people that saw it, liked it, but they want to move on, like most people. And then there's people that really, really like it and want to see it 2 or 3 times. And then there's what I call the UPFs. These would be the ultra-passionate fans who know what university trained Chewbacca in what flight school he went to. I said, where do you come? Who is Mara Jade? I don't know who you're talking about. They said, oh, well, she was in Splinter of the Mind's Eye or whatever, but I haven't read any of the novels. I haven't played the video games or any of the ancillary material. I did not follow. And like I say, they're kind of, disappointed, I think my son Nathan gave me a Star Wars trivia quiz and I flunked it. It's terrible. What was Han Solo smuggling? Was it going to be multiple choice, jewels? That sounds right. Spices. Okay, who knew? But like I say, it's just minutia. Who cares? But when I look at these documentaries, I'm reminded of how much fun we had making them. I mean, even in serious scenes, we're running back on the Death Star to get to the Millennium Falcon, and they cut Obi-Wan down, and there's no, and all that drama. But we were just laughing and having the times of our life. And I think it really comes across. I think there's an infectious kind of spirit and attitude that the audience perceives that we like what we're doing, and allows them to have fun as well. And the same thing, I thought it was very smart to use a character like Han Solo, who's the skeptic, who is cynical. I'm all wide-eyed going, gosh, you don't believe in the Force, do you? And he's all, hey, kid, I've been from one side of the galaxy to the other. It's an escape valve for the cynics in the audience that would be saying, Force, or whatever, if you have somebody that mirrors your audience. So it was very clever to have someone like that in there. As far as Alec Guinness went, and I was so intimidated being around him. He invited me out to lunch before we started filming to get to know me a little better. And, it took me so long to be able to, that feeling where you think, I'm going to try and talk, but I've got this thing in my throat. And if I try and talk, I feel like I'm going to cry. So you don't talk. And I kept calling him Sir Alec, Sir Alec. What kind of fish do you recognize, Sir Alec? Recommend Sir Alec. I don't know if it happened at this very lunch, but eventually, after a couple of weeks of Sir Alec, Sir Alec, Sir Alec, he said, dear boy. And he did. He did tap, 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 kind of hard. And I went, what? I want to be known by my name, not my accolade. I went, what do you want me to call you, Big Al? And he laughed at that because I said that. That's one thing I realized, that if I could make him laugh, and usually when it was in unguarded moments, when I wasn't trying to be somebody I wasn't, because before I met him, I, brushed up on, Shakespeare's plays, and at least the titles anyway. Cramming for exams. I'm sure you're completely unfamiliar with that. I learned a lot about Cambridge. I read the Wikipedia page on the car ride over. 1209, that's when it was founded. Did you know that?
I do know. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I didn't.
That's true. And And by the way, I thought, are you sure, they want me to come? Because, clearly I'll have the lowest IQ in the room, and it's kind of intimidating. Maybe, possibly, no, that's not true, because I thought I'd almost have to improve my academic record to even win a wooden spoon. Does everyone knows what a wooden spoon? You don't? Up until 1909, a wooden spoon was awarded to, seriously, this is true, was awarded to the Cambridge student with the lowest passing grades. And I said, now there's an award that's after my heart. When did they stop giving it? In 1909? Oh, that's a terrible idea. They ought to still do it. And that should bring us up to present. That brings us up to 2016. Any questions?
So just before, I'm sure loads of people here have questions, and I just have one more question to ask you before opening it up. You spoke about how much you enjoyed sort of working on set with Carrie and with Harrison.
Right.
There was a long time between sort of that finishing and coming back a few years ago to film the most recent Star Wars.
Right.
What was the reunion like? Was the chemistry still there? Did you sort of...
Well, is there anyone that hasn't seen Episode 7? Anybody?
What?
Oh. Well...
You know what? I will say that they will just have to close their ears, and if you want to give us...
No, listen, it just has to... Well, I don't have to give any spoilers, but people would say to me, so what was it like working with Carrie and Harrison again? And I didn't want to lie, so I would say things like, oh, it was really great to see them. And it is. I mean, it's like getting the band back together. You go, certain people you meet years later and you just don't have anything to talk about. It's like, so did you ever get that G.I. Joe doll you wanted? I mean, he's 44 now. We're talking, it's like I knew him when I was 12. But, with both of those guys, with I call them Harry and Harrison because, it just the blend is right for me. You're around them 5 minutes and it's just like old times. And what was interesting was, George asked my wife and I to lunch. That's Mary Lou sitting there. She's heard these stories thousands of times, so I applaud her the fact that she's even awake. But, and she said to me, she goes, because I said, what? Something's up, because Chelsea, my daughter, was there, and they asked that Chelsea go with George's daughters to another area to eat lunch. So we knew something was up. And Mary Lou says to me on the way over, I wonder if he's going to do another trilogy. And I laughed so hard, because I said, no, he said he's not going to do any more. He said that to our face. I said, I know what's happening. It's coming out on Blu-ray, or they're going to put it out in 3D. It's, them wanting us to go on talk shows again and publicize it, And so when he actually said, well, I'm going to be selling Lucasfilm, and Kathy Kennedy's going to be running it, and he didn't mention anything about Disney, by the way, which would have been insider trading, because I would have run out and bought Disney stock had I known. But, and they want to do another trilogy. And Carrie went, I'm in! I said, Carrie, because I wanted to have a poker face. And plus, I was so stunned. I couldn't process the information. We had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then they went back and did the prequels that led up to us. And he said, I'm not going to be making these things into my 70s. That's it. 1 through 6, the end. Goodbye. And so I just couldn't intellectually grasp what he was saying. And I started thinking, well, wait a second. If they're going to do a new trilogy, it'll be about another generation. We'll be sort of like the equivalent of the Peter Cushing character or the Alec Guinness character, or, not the focus of the story. And I thought, oh my gosh, because I was fairly happy where I was. I'm a character actor in animated cartoons and games, and it's believe me, it's the ultimate lazy actor's dream. You don't have to memorize lines, you can show up looking like hell, and you get to play characters that I had to go to Broadway to get any kind of character that wasn't that was challenging or used in dialects or so forth. I replaced in Elephant Man, I replaced in Amadeus, and then all the rest of the shows I did, were, except for a revival of Room Service, were all original plays or musicals. And like I say, I mean, I got to play, the critics came to me in Room Service, if you've ever seen it, they made a Marx Brothers movie out of it, classic farce, and all the critics thought I was playing the naive Midwestern playwright. Golly, had never been in the big city before, you know, that guy. Instead, I was the producer of the show with the pencil and mustache and the pants up to here. And they went, wow, you know, I love the element of surprise, because people, you know, based on Luke, don't think you can chew bubble gum and tie your shoelaces at the same time. So that works to your advantage. But so what I'm saying was I was very comfortable where I was. And I thought, you know, if I enjoy, you know, whatever profile I have, if you go back to Star Wars, it's into the white heat of the sun, you know, because I've been to these conventions, you know. Remember I talked about UPFs? I hope you're taking notes. There will be a pop quiz. And I said, you know, because, and plus we have a beginning, a middle, and end. You know, these reunion things are always inherently disappointing because you can't capture the past. Nobody wants to see us running around bouncing off the walls of the Death Star at our age. It'll be pathetic. And I said, well, don't worry about it, because Harrison's not going to do it anyway, and that'll give me an out if I don't want to do it. Of course, I'm very intrigued, and, you know, I'd do anything for George. And plus, at my age, you figure you don't get that many opportunities. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I considered turning it down. I just was really frightened on a scale that I hadn't had in many, many years, probably since I was on Broadway in a struggling musical. Or any show that gets bad reviews and it stays open. At least with a movie, it comes out, it tanks, it gets terrible reviews. You're nowhere near the scene of the crime. You know, you could be in the Bahamas reading, that movie I did really, really tanked. But with legitimate theater, you're there to see your baby die a slow, painful death. So emotionally, it's wrenching, you know. And I did about 7 shows back, and I did a national tour and a couple of regional shows at the Goodspeed in Connecticut and at the Coconut Grove in Florida. But so I thought, you know, now I'm, you know, okay, I've done and it's hard work, 8 a week, it's tough. You got to get out, even when you're in a terrible mood, you got to go do the show. And everybody gets to stay home and never get out of their pajamas all day. Even if it's sleeting and snowy, they get to stay home. I got to go do my show twice. It's a Wednesday or Saturday. And I was in a good place, you know. I was happy, you know. We got the little land in Malibu, a little modest house and the dog and all that. And I thought, boy, if I do this, it's going to be so high profile, and you're going to be right back in that glare of the spotlight, which I don't miss it, to tell you the truth. Because, you know, I did it. It was really fun at the time, you know. But you know, you can't go back, and you can never go home again, someone said. You're smarter than I am. Whose quote was that? You can't go home again. But I thought, you know, even if Harrison doesn't do it, which I didn't think he would, it's not even like a choice. I realized it's like I've been drafted. Because if I said no, there would be, not only would people hate my guts, I'm talking about the UPFs, they would be outside my house with torches like in those old Frankenstein pictures. Except lightsabers instead of torches. But I couldn't imagine it. On the one hand, I went, yeah, it'll be fun. You know, I love George, and I can't wait to see Harrison and Harry. But when you actually thought about physically doing it, I thought, oh, gosh, you know, what are they going to do? But I like adventure. I love challenges. I love doing things I've never done before, which is why I love doing a Broadway musical. I'd never done one of those before, so I did one. So we signed on. And, you know, like I say, I didn't know it was going to be bought by Disney, because this was summer of 2012. Then they announced that Disney had bought Lucasfilm around Halloween, which was October 30th, it was announced. And, you know, we didn't know who the director was going to be. And then they announced J.J. Abrams, and it all came out. It was all very, very exciting. And I hope people are happy. It seems like, because in Hollywood, remember, kids, it's not important if it's of high quality, only if it makes money. Now, I don't want to, a good example would be Transformers. And to be completely fair to Michael Bay, I've never seen a Transformers film. I know they're among the highest grossing films in Hollywood history. I saw a trailer, and I'm too old to process that much information. The thing looked like it was edited in a Cuisinart. If you try and count 1,000, 2, 1,000, and it's just mind-boggling. And they're cutting everywhere where you don't know where you are. It's cinema of bewilderment, But what I'm saying is, they keep making, all I'm saying is I've never met anybody that's my age, or probably even your age, that say, oh, I love that movie. Most people are disparaging of that particular franchise, but they keep making them because they make huge amounts of money. And oh my God, I just realized this is all on film. Because I shouldn't have gotten that specific, especially since I've never seen those movies, But my larger point was, it doesn't matter if it's good as long as it makes money. So because The Force Awakens made a lot of money, I can't be, it's not ergo, it's good. And so I don't know. The fans seem to be fairly happy with it, and I thought the world of the new cast, Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, Adam Driver, Gwendolyn Christie. These are all wonderful, and the characters are so great. They had a lot on their plate to introduce all these new characters, and I thought, when Harrison said he was coming back, I said, he finally got his martyr's death. Because he'd been wanting to be bumped off since, I think, Empire. That's why they froze him, so he could make up his mind later. If he doesn't come back, he stays frozen, No one wants a Han-sickle. Please, Harrison, I beg you, let them thaw you. Please come back. But I said, well, if Harrison's coming back, clearly he's going to be killed. And I met with JJ, and I said I was worried about the dog and blah, blah, blah. And he intimated that, don't worry, you won't be in England that long. And I said, okay. And I thought, now I can anticipate what the story's going to be, because Han Solo his death will be the end of Act 2, or very nearly so. And I thought, if I come swooping in, much like in the original film, when you thought Harrison had gone and he comes back when we're making the assault on the Death Star, I said, that would be very cool. I'd love to have like an entrance like in the last 11 minutes where I help where out of nowhere I show up and help the good guys succeed. That I would be down for. So I keep reading, and everybody's talking about me. The very first line in the crawl is, Luke Skywalker has vanished. I said, ooh, this ought to be good. So I'm reading, and I should have known. He said, do me a favor when I send you the script. Don't read the last page first. So when Rian Johnson sent me the script for episode 8, I immediately went to the last page. But, talk about an elaborate entrance. Come on. I'll never top that. In fact, it's kind of worrisome, because after all the build-up and that John Williams music, in 8, I have to show up, and it's all downhill from there. You'll never be able to top that. But again, I'm having fun in a way that I think I appreciate it in a different way than I did then, in a way I couldn't have. And to see it passed down to generational. Nathan was born in England when we were doing Empire Strikes Back. So he's got a British passport, just like you. And, he knows more about those films than I do because, like I say, he reads a lot of material. I would get everything, Star Wars Insider, here you go, Nathan. And he would collect all these things, categorize them, catalog them, put them into the collection. But like I say, anecdotally, you hear stories from, I met my wife, on Empire, and I proposed to her at Return of the Jedi, or whatever. And it's multi-generational, and in a way that I think they last because, much like the Disney animated films, you can't really pinpoint them in time. There's not cars that give away what era they were made in, or hairstyles, or clothing that might look old-fashioned 10 or 15 years later. And, you'd have to be a really cynical person not to enjoy the fact that it has given joy to so many people. They're optimistic films. They're about believing in yourself and helping others. I mean, it sounds cornball when you start breaking them down, but it's all that good stuff that young people should see. And remember now, it's made in an era where the prevailing hero was like a, disgruntled, returning Vietnam War vet who came home to find his farmhouse burned to the ground and his wife had been raped. Those were, it was Rambo and all that stuff. And George was smart because he thought, I don't even want to make this science fiction where, they come from Earth. He wanted to figure out a way to make a movie where there are clear protagonists and clear antagonists, I remember being introduced on a talk show. Now here's the guy who wore all white all the time in Star Wars, Mark Hamill. And conversely, Darth Vader, he's dark and evil. So, because I said to George, I remember I wanted to go on the set the day that they were doing the scene where Vader comes blasting through the door. I also went to work to meet Peter Cushing, and I had scenes with Sir Alec. And I loved hanging out. Even now, when days I'm not working, we love to go visit and see what they're doing. And I said, oh, this is so great when they blows the door and he comes through. I said, it's so Dr. Doom, because George knows comic books. He got that reference. We were talking about Howard the Duck even then. But I know I couldn't steal him away. But I said, are you going to cut to someone when he comes through the door? Darth Vader comes through. Are you going to cut to two people going, that's the Dark Lord of the Sith? They said, no. He said, well, he's all dressed in black. We'll play some scary music. People will know. I said, yeah, okay, because I was thinking there should be some exposition, like, who the hell is this guy? No, he's just scary, and with scary music, and, he'll pop from the white background, that's all you need. And I don't know where the numbering came along, because like I told you, the story said Saga #1, The Star Wars, and I didn't know what the Journal of the Whills was. Eventually, when I got over there to film it, it had said it wasn't called A New Hope, but it did say, I thought chapter, maybe I'm wrong, but whatever it was 4. And I remember when we went to North Africa, Carrie and Harrison hadn't come over yet. It was me, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, and the stunt guys played the Tusken Raiders and so forth. And we did all the stuff in North Africa for the desert scenes, for Luke's Tatooine. Phil Brown was Uncle Owen, and Sheila Fraser was Aunt Beru. And we went off with our blue milk, which, by the way, people ask me all the time, what was that? It's Long Life milk. Have you ever heard of that? It's for camping, It doesn't need refrigeration, but it's oily and sweet. It's just ghastly. And they added blue food coloring, and shook it up and poured it in the glass. And I thought, darn it, what a prop. If they're going to give me blue milk, you bet I'm going to drink it, even though it's making me gag every time I try. So we went off and we did that in North Africa. And I said to George one day, where there's downtime, where they're trying to set up shots, and God knows, trying to get R2-D2 to work in the sand. Come on. It's one thing to work them in the creature shop out at Borum Wood, but it was just unbelievable what they had to deal with. And poor Tony Daniels in that gear, he would get very cross and would hold off putting the head on until the very last moment. But still, it was very uncomfortable. I said, what the heck are we doing? What do you mean episode or chapter 4? And he said, well, it's like Flash Gordon. We want you to get the feeling. This was even before my time. Chapter plays, you'd go to the movies and you'd see a double bill. There'd be a newsreel, there'd be cartoons, there would be the feature film, there would be a chapter, a serial play, anywhere between 16 to 18, maybe even 20 minutes long, that was serialized. So that's the first time Batman ever appeared on the screen in the serial in 1943, I think it was. Superman, a lot of these were the first, and Flash Gordon. So he said, I want to capture the feeling of that you'd missed. Oh, I hope it's nothing I said. No, I really do like Transformers. I'm sorry. I didn't know Michael Bay's agent was here. And I mean, like I say, I shouldn't talk about things I've never seen. But no, he said, I just want to get the feeling that you've come in and you've missed the first couple of chapters. That's why you have the crawl, All that's basically it's useless information. I don't know whether I hate to burst your bubble, but it's mostly just gibble gabble to make you think like you've missed something, which is the whole idea. But like I said, he was very approachable and fun, and there were a lot of things I related to. We're both mad comic book fans. We love Carl Barks's Uncle Scrooge, which later you should see the influence that those stories have on the Raiders of the Lost Ark films. By Carl Barks, he would draw these sprawling adventures. The Big Rolling Rock, that's right out of an Uncle Scrooge Donald Duck comic strip. Yeah. Seriously. And Spielberg is, oh yeah, he loves it. He's not like hiding it, it's not like he's plagiarizing. It's, it's an homage. Yeah. Which is, like a kind word for stealing.
Mark, I'm just aware that lots of people want to ask questions. So let's finally open it up to the audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and somebody will be here with a microphone. And wow, what I might do is...
I could probably hear him without a microphone.
I might take 3 questions at a time, a round of 3,
sure.
and then we can just answer
them. And
them.
I'll keep my answers short, guys. I'm sorry. Going
so let's go with 2 here at the front, and then just 1 just here. So just this gentleman and the gentleman next to him at the front, and then just 1 here.
You talk a lot about Alec Guinness.
Yes.
As an actor, how did he inspire and inform your development as an actor?
Well, first of all, I don't deserve to be even mentioned in the same sentence with the man. But one thing I thought was remarkable about him was the broad range of his sensibilities and his taste. Once I got over being so nervous around him, he thought, he thought, oh, it was delightful. He loved my humor. And I was really surprised that he was such a fan of Stan Laurel. He said, oh, my. And he told me that in The Man in the White Suit, that once he had done that film, he realized that he was aping or imitating Stan Laurel, he said, inadvertently. But the fact that he recognized Stan Laurel as a great actor, because I said, see, most people don't realize they just look at him and they think he's a simpleton and a naive, bumbling child man, when in fact he was anything but. Sir Alec wrote him a letter one time and praising him very highly. So, and I was just so enamored of his stories. And in the course of talking about films, you couldn't help but learn from him. And he would tell stories that they were unflattering about other Hollywood stars. He wouldn't say, I said, well, who was that? Oh, no, it's not important who it was. And I'd say, yeah, but come on, because, you could tell me, And sometimes you could figure out when he described the subject, because he talked about people that were really trying to sabotage you, and lean out of your close-up so that they can't use, and they do it subtly. They just slowly drift so that they can pull your eye lines away. And then when they get into rushes, they go, well, we can't use this because he's not looking in the right place. And he said, you don't fall for that. Should he start to drift away, keep your gaze directly in the same place. Not only will they be able to use your close-up, but you've sent him a message. So, that kind of thing.
I think we'll hear the two questions first, if that's okay.
So, like you, I had the opportunity to audition for Star Wars. I think it's probably fair to say that you did rather better out of it than I did.
But you look much too young to it. You mean for the
Episode
prequels?
7.
Episode 7?
So you did better out of it than I did. So what I want to know is, what do you think it was that made you stand out in those cattle auditions?
Well, episode 7, by that time, they had to give me the part. It was too late for William Catt and Kirk Russell and Robbie Benson at that point. You never know. It's a terrible thing. And, if you could figure out the formula, you would bottle it and sell it, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. Do you know what character you were reading for?
Finn.
Right. Well, Finn is played by John Boyega, right? So, who knows? I mean, again, and I think a lot of it too is chemistry, trying to figure out who they're going to put, how they'll work together. Like I said, Leia, Han, and Luke were looked at as like a trio rather than a single characters. And what I would tell you is that it's like playing the roulette wheel in Las Vegas. If you spin that wheel and you keep spinning it and spinning it and spinning it, eventually it's going to come up your number. All these things are to come together. When I looked at my screen test for Star Wars, I was saying to you, I said, I couldn't have chosen between these guys. I mean, I like William Catt so much. He's got the best hair. Kurt Russell probably could have played Han or Luke. He was a little more cynical for Luke. Robbie Benson was just almost so cute, he almost was a Disney cartoon. And it was like his 18th birthday, and he says, it's my 18th birthday. I thought, he's shamelessly trying to get a birthday present. Darn it, next time I audition, I'm going to say it's my birthday. So what I'd say is, you can't really know, because nobody knows. That's a good thing. One thing you can gain great confidence knowing that you may not know, but nobody else does either. The director doesn't know, the writer doesn't know, nobody knows until it all, they by process of elimination. And don't take it like, oh, I'm a terrible actor, I didn't get it. It's just that wasn't the right situation for you. And if you keep at it, like I say, I think sometimes tenacity is more important than talent. Because if you just refuse to give up, if you're just like a dog with a chew toy and you won't give up, it eventually will happen for you.
And just before we go over here, I'm to tell people watching at home over the live streaming service that I will take questions from Twitter. I'm now looking at
watching from home.
Looking at the screen.
Is this being broadcast?
This is live streamed to our members around the world.
Around the campus?
We set around the world, wherever you are, if you're a member of the society, yeah. But I'm not quite sure where to look for this. But yeah, if you're watching at home, do tweet at the Cambridge Union with your questions, and if I have time, I will read them out. But first, we're going to go over here with a question.
Mr. Hamill, I just want to say thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
And for being part of a universe that has played such a huge role in a lot of people's lives and given so much joy, as you said, to a lot of people. I also want to say sorry in advance for this question.
What?
Sorry for being UPF. Will you please sign my lightsaber after this?
Not only will I, but I have very reasonable rates. I accept MasterCard and Visa.
So
I don't have a pen, but I'll be happy to. You got a Sharpie, yeah.
I actually have a question about the lightsaber. Are you taught the choreography for the lightsaber fights, or is that?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just like when I went on Broadway
tried in my bedroom,
with a choreographer to learn a dance.
Yeah.
Every single step is worked out. And in this case, it was Peter Diamond was the stunt coordinator, and the fencing, worked out the moves. Bob Anderson was the Olympic fencing champion who doubled Darth Vader in Empire. Empire was the most difficult of all three films physically. It was really, really hard to do that one. I'm still going back to the fact that I thought you had auditioned for the original Star Wars. I said, boy, this guy looks really good. I take care of myself, and if I shave my beard, I don't have that much gray in my hair, but I've got to figure out what this guy's doing, because he looks so young.
This is a, I don't know, is this what they are really like?
Yeah, in fact, this is as accurate a reproduction as I've ever seen. And, you know, one thing I learned, and I didn't know at the time, was George liked using pre-existing hardware. So if he could find like a German Luger or something and just put gizmos on it and make it look, rather than building it from scratch, he liked taking things that existed and transforming them into something that made it look like it was from a galaxy far, far away. And in this case, this is an old photographer's flash. You saw those old movies where they go, right here, Mr. DeMille, and it goes, thump, you know, and the flash powder goes off. You've seen those in movies, right? That's what this was. They would hold this up. There was a tray here, and I think they put this on. I don't know, but this basic right here, in 1976, when we made the movie, John Jay said, I haven't used one of those since I was 22 years old. I'll remember those. They don't make them like that anymore. And so, yeah, this is exactly the one that I had in the first one. And just my name, or should I put best wishes to eBay? No, but I want to warn you, by the way, there are more forgeries on eBay than there are real ones. And it just kills me because, you know, I thought, you know, should I point it out or not? Because if it's real to them, you know, why become Mr. Buzzkill? But it started really annoying me because, you know, they charge so much. You know, you see all these fake autographs. I said, I know that's not mine. I know that's not mine. That's not Carrie's. I don't think that's Peter Mayhew. I know that's not Harrison. And they, you know, if they have enough signatures, they can charge over $1,000 for these things. So they're just full-on crooks, these people. And I don't know what to say. There's legislation now in California that we're working on. False sports memorabilia is covered. For some reason, entertainment memorabilia is not. And Assemblywoman Ling Ling Chang saw my Twitter account where people were saying, is this real? Is this real? Is this real? I said, you know, it's so boring. I don't want to become the authenticity tweet of the internet. I'll like it, you know, I'll hit the little heart if it's real. If it's fake, I'll DM you and say fake. Because it wasn't working. Because if I just ignored it, because I thought I should ignore the fakes. But I want to nail these guys, you know, and they might think it's just I'm being, you know, I'm inconsistent. So I would just, you know, sorry, fake, MH, you know, to all these people. And so she picked up on that, and she said, will you, can I include your name on this legislation? I thought, yeah, we should do anything we can to try and stop all this nonsense. There's
a film to go with this one, so it really
okay,
is
go ahead, keep asking
authenticated.
questions. I can sign and answer.
Yeah, so do you have any more questions? Yeah, I wish Thursday debates were a bit like this. We'll go, just there, and right up there. We'll start up there on the gallery, actually.
Hey, I'll be Ray, you be Luke. There you are.
So, we've just got a question up on the gallery.
Actually, he's almost too good. He's making me nervous. Yes.
Out of all the Star Wars films that you've been in, which one has been your favorite and why?
Well, you know, that's a really difficult question because they're almost like, do you have any pets at home? Do you have any dogs or cats? And do you have more than one? No. Just one. Well, my argument completely falls apart. No, I was going to say, they're like your children in a way. You like them all for different reasons. I thought Star Wars was fun because it was so, at the time, seemed so original. It was cobbled together with a lot of different elements from pirate movies and World War II movies. A lot of familiar movie cliches, but all mixed up and jumbled together. And everything old is new again. So it seemed highly original at the time. Then Empire, I thought, was deeper. It was more cerebral. It was more spiritual. You had the character of Yoda, which I thought was such a smart idea. I'm looking around for a great Jedi Master. He's got to be taller than me, and he's got to be handsome and you know, like some sort of Superman. And here he was, this little toad-like guy. See, that I thought that was a profound sort of thing, you know, that I, you know, Luke is so slow on the uptake, you know. It's always right in front of his face, and he's like the last to get it. So I liked that one, and of course it had the wonderful twist ending. You want to, that woman, put your finger in your ears. Dad Vader. I loved that. I loved that surprise, and it was so unexpected. And we lost. I mean, I thought one movie has all the good guys get their behinds kicked hard. You know, I mean, you think you have trouble with in-laws. Do you have anybody so strict they lop off your right hand? I don't think so. So that one I liked because it was unexpected. And then, of course, the third one was sort of, I love the ideas of these little teddy bear-like things having technology that could bring down, this medieval technology that could bring down the Empire. I thought it could have been a little bit more challenged. I said to George, why did you make it more like rat-like or ferret-like or weasel-like so that they're a little harder to cuddle? And then you can learn to love them. And plus, you remember, they were going to barbecue us. We come in on steaks, you know. I said, so they have, you know, qualities that aren't the greatest. But again, I thought that was an interesting idea. I think it originally was meant to be a planet of Wookiees, but from a cost point of view, to make all those outfits, they said, well, if we make them really, really small, we can save a lot of money. So like I say, and it was the last one. We knew it was our graduation film. We knew that we weren't going to be able to stay together forever, and all things must come to an end, had a beginning, a middle, and end, and that was it. The end, goodbye. Except till now. It'll never go away. Ever, ever, ever. So I hope I didn't answer your question. Because it's true though. I mean, it's hard to pick just one. Do you have a favorite?
I like the new one.
The new one, all right. Fair enough. How'd you like my line readings in that? I thought I nailed that dialogue.
We've got a question just
Sure.
here.
Hi, Mark Hamill. My name is Josh.
Hi, Josh.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I mean, I'm a big fan, literally big, and a fan. I'm obviously very tall. I mean, just, thinking what question to ask. Obviously, I won't ask you who Rey's parents are unless you want to tell us, but of course you won't. My question is, Star Wars is so influential, whenever it's cold outside, I'm like, oh, it's like hot out here. I'm just wondering, do you think in like 50 years' time, Star Wars will be bigger than Shakespeare? Because literally, it's had so many influences, like, people quote it all the time. It's so popular in, pop culture.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say no. I mean, certainly not to supersede Shakespearean works. I realized how much it had been ingrained in the culture gradually. In other words, it was a huge hit from the very first day, which surprised me because I thought, they couldn't decide on a poster. They put it out with no poster because everyone said, what is this? Is it like heavy and serious? And anyway, they put it out with just pictures outside the theater, no poster. And I thought, that day I was going in the 35 millimeter prints because the 70 millimeter was at Grauman's Chinese. And I said to the driver, can you go by Grauman's because I want to see the movie that's, the theater showing our movie. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were lines around the block, day one, first show. Who knew, right? But it was clever because they brought it out May 25th, which was most releases were like the first week of June. Now, of course, everybody's May 25th and even earlier. But what I realized was, okay, now they're making fun of it on Saturday Night Live or Mad Magazine. There's parodies of it. It's probably your equivalent of the Beano, okay? They do a Luke Skywalker parody of the Beano. And then when I saw it in political cartoons, I saw like a thing about this would have been either the Carter administration or Reagan. And probably the end of Carter, that was 76 to 80. I said, wow, if it's in political cartoons, that's a different level. And then they started being everywhere. There'd be like a toilet tissue commercial with them called softer fly, more absorbent, da, 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 da. And you go, oh, it's kind of trivializing it, but now it's part of Madison Avenue, which is advertising and so forth. But in terms of its popularity, I didn't really think it would last as long as it has. And I think it sort of went away for a while, but like I say, there's always that hardcore UPFs that follow it and keep it alive. That's why there's fan fiction, there were novels. I mean, it had an afterlife, animated shows, video games, etc. But I mean, I would say they probably should be more compared to the Bond films or something like that rather than Shakespeare.
I can't remember where we went to. It was somebody's pointing over there. And also, I'm really sorry, everybody, but this is going to have to be our last question.
Oh, listen. Or we could do a lightning round.
We can do a lightning.
I'll go really fast.
Mark, should we take 5 questions at once?
Sure.
And then you just answer them all. Okay, so we'll go over there. We will go over here. We will go up on the balcony just there. We will go with Catherine by the door.
We're wasting time just saying we'll go here, we'll go there, we'll go here, we'll go there.
We'll go. Okay. Those people.
Everybody shout them all at once.
Hello.
Yeah.
My question was basically, if you were any character from the Star Wars trilogy, who do you think would conform most of your personality?
Well, I flattered myself. I'd like to think Han Solo, right? Probably Luke. I have to say it, but I am fairly gullible. I like people, but that doesn't mean that's the part I want to play. I mean, you see The Wizard of Oz, and you go, the best parts are the witch, the lion, the scarecrow, the Tin Man. Who wants to play Dorothy? And really, if you make that analogy, Luke is the Dorothy of Star Wars. But what I realized was you need one character that young people can identify with and not feel threatened by. And I'm talking about youngsters, 7, 8, 9-year-olds. Teenagers want to be cool like Harrison, and ladies' man and all that. But Luke, the young people think, I could do that. I might not be able to be like Han Solo and fly this ship, but, Luke was somebody that they could relate to, that didn't intimidate them, and that they thought, look, I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. Come on. So that's probably why especially really young people are relaxed around the character of Luke. And then of course, young people have no concept of time. Oh, sorry, go on.
So we were going for quick questions, just one up here as well.
What was it like riding the speeder?
That's like the voice of God. I don't know. Oh, well, I was always having fun. Are you kidding me? They did it 2 ways. They did it in post with special effects, but they also had a 3-wheeled Mini with the chassis removed and the speeder put on top of it, and they put angled glass along the bottom, between the bottom of the car and the sand, and they angled the mirror so it reflected the sand. Very clever, It was hard, though, because if you turned a certain way, and leaned a certain way, the strip would come off, and we had to do it over and over and over again. In fact, after we finished filming over here in Africa and in London, they took me out to to Death Valley in the United States. You'd seen it in a lot of John Ford westerns and so forth. And we had a skeleton crew, and it was just me, 3PO, and nobody was inside R2-D2 because they just needed a shot of me going along. What was funny was Anthony Daniels was back here in England, so they had to find somebody that could fit into his costume. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter who, just so they could articulate the arms and turn the head. And it was a young ballet dancer, this young girl. She was, I don't know, teenage, 18, 19, 20. And, that was always the problem. They say, so what's the story of this movie? And you think, wow. Can you say in 25 words or less what it's about? So that's just a bunch of crazy nonsense, but you'll enjoy it. Just move your arms and shut up.
And we've got a question over here.
Hiya. You can't answer any of my questions because Disney will kill you, but can I give you a present from my friend William and I?
Well, okay, but I don't
Journey
like.
home, just in case you were peckish and wanted to work through some daddy issues.
Oh, sure. What is it? What is it? Sure.
It's
What is it?
just so everyone can see, it is a chocolate head of Darth Vader.
Oh.
So that's for you.
Well, as usual, I'll hand it over to our archivist. Because I think I tweeted today, because Twitter's fun, but you get these endless questions. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite this? Favorite that? Favorite that? Favorite that? And this one question was, and I finally got fed up because it said, important question, please answer. Waffles or pancakes?
And the
I thought,
answer?
I'm going to muster up as much sarcasm as I can and say, I'm on the if it tastes good, don't eat it diet. But thanks for asking this, vital, earth-shaking question.
And I think
But thank you so much. I won't eat it. I'll look at it.
I'm finally just here.
Star Wars helped me and my brother get along when we were kids, and then the Batman games made us friends as teenagers. So how was it being the Joker?
How is it making what now?
Being the
Being the
Joker
Joker.
in Batman.
Oh, Joker!
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That has brought me so much pleasure in a way I can't explain, because it gave me a chance to be the character actor that I wasn't able to achieve except on Broadway. In television, I said, I love TV. I'd do TV if they cast me in interesting roles, but I'm not quite a leading man. And, I'm telling you, when I discovered, because I didn't do animation until, I did one when I was a teenager, but then didn't work in animation for 20 years. And when I did Joker, I thought, there's no way they're going to hire me because of my association with Star Wars. It'll just be bad PR. Luke is the Joker. Give me a break. So I was very confident. Since I knew I couldn't get the job, you know what I mean? A lot of times you go for audition and nerves get the best of you. You're trying to do so well that you're not in the groove. You're a little out of your timing's off or whatever. This thing, I thought, there's no way that I'm going to get the Joker. So I'm going to make them wish. I'm going to make them beg that I play this part. And I had been doing Amadeus both on the road and on Broadway for nearly a year, and one of the characteristics of Mozart was that he has this ghastly, Peter Schaffer said, it's like a donkey braying, and it's supposed to drive Salieri mad, because how can this uncouth lout, write this celestial music from the gods and have this coarse, high-pitched, horrible laugh? So I'm telling you, 8 times a week, you couldn't change the text, but you could certainly play with the laugh. And I would play with laugh. I said, I'm going to do it like Curly from the Three Stooges at the matinee. I mean, you try and do character actor laughs and so forth. Sometimes you get notes from the stage manager saying, watch it. That was too close to, if it gets recognizable, you don't do it right. So, all I'm saying is I had quite this arsenal of laughs for me, and I went in, and there was just one drawing of him. It said, "Don't think Nicholson." And I thought, well, they don't want him to sound like Jack, which is fine. So this is the way I would do it. And as I was driving out after the audition, I thought, top that. That's the best Joker they'll ever get as long as they live. So I was really cocky and full of myself. And then I got the phone call, and they said, they want you. I said, for what? And they said, for the Joker. I said, oh, no, I can't play that part. It's too iconic. There's no way I can do a voice that will match. I said, can't I play Two-Face or Clayface or Dr. Hugo Strange or Scarecrow? I knew Batman really well. But I said, that's just too high profile. I mean, I'm sure to fail. And they said, well, don't worry about it. I mean, the credits go by so fast on animated shows, they won't even know it's you. So I said, well, okay, I can see that. And everybody wanted me to do it. So again, if people are going to want you to do it, you shouldn't say no. I thought, well, if I'm really terrible, they'll replace me. But what I'm saying, I went 180 degrees from confident and cocky, like, top that, to I can't do this. And one thing I love about animation is that because you're not seen, you are liberated in a way you never would be if the camera was on you. Like right now, I'm thinking, how am I sitting? Should I cross my leg? Is my scarf straight? In voiceover, it's theater of the mind, like radio or something. Or when I would tell the kids stories with the lights down, where they're using their imagination. And I don't have to be, yeah, I'm a little short for a stormtrooper, but I'm also too short to play the Joker. He's got to be, what, 6'2" or something? More like Jeff Goldblum's build. So, anyway, but like I say, I love it. And what happened is it opened up the floodgates of character parts in voiceovers. And I've never used so many dialects and accents. You can do Italian, you can do Australian, you can do East and London, and it's wonderful. It's just I thought, where has this been all my life? I absolutely adore voiceover. And I was happy to stay there. You know, I didn't think I could be happier than I was doing that. And that's why one of the reasons I was a little scared about coming back and doing more of these films. All right, anything else?
I'm afraid that's all we have time for.
All right.
But I mean, to say for me, it's been a pleasure would be an understatement. I've so enjoyed talking to you.
I hope you all enjoyed it. I sure love having you. I have to tell you, I've never been invited to speak at Yale or Harvard.
Why would you want to if you've spoken here?
Well, I know they're a little down market, but that's the best we have to offer. And like I say, it's quite an honor. I know my mom and dad would be so proud of me to make it for, you know, in a way that, you know, you guys really don't understand. Seriously, I mean, I would have been honored just to take a tour of the campus, but to have all these people sitting here listening to me, really, thank you so much.
Well, I think everyone will join me in a warm thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right.